Ladies and gentlemen, let's talk some more about GTA 6, and in this episode, I wanted to touch on the protagonist. Now, I know I've touched on this a little bit in the first episode with the story itself, but I wanted to go a little bit more in depth about what I personally would like to see, especially with the latest rumor that is claiming that GTA 6 can have a female protagonist, which is basically the case with every single leak ever when it comes to a GTA game, because that's been the same thing since the end of time. It also claims there's going to be 3 protagonists again, blah 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 blah, probably a bunch of bullshit. But either way, it is an interesting thing to talk about, what I personally like to see, and of course you guys as well. Now, looking back at the history of the games that Rockstar has made, they've never had a female protagonist. Now, I know there's a couple of you that want to point out Oni, if I'm pronouncing that correctly. However, this was developed by Bungie West at the time. And yes, I did look it up to make sure that this was an actual thing, because all Rockstar did is publish it and quote-unquote develop it, probably just port it from the PlayStation 2. The original PC version was made by Bungie. So for that reason, I don't really want to consider it being a Rockstar kind of character, primarily because it wasn't developed by Rockstar themselves. Sure, they might have had a hand in it, but from a main protagonist thing, I don't think there was an awful lot written from Rockstar themselves. Obviously, there has been a lot of different females within the GTA franchise, but primarily they're more side characters, and some of them are very memorable. Looking, for example, recently at Red Dead Redemption 2, we had Sadie Adler, as well as a whole host of other, some might say, stronger women inside of the camp, and most of them were very well written too. They were definitely a very important part of the story, and they really felt like they had their place within the game. Now, of course, if you're looking back at the recent GTA game, there would be Elizabeth, which comes to mind, as well as Melanie, and just like overall well-written characters. But the problem is that if you're going to use it as a protagonist, it's going to be a very different dynamic. Would I be personally open to a female protagonist in the GTA game? Sure, but the quote-unquote issue that you would have within a GTA game and a female protagonist is a lot of the things, I guess, wouldn't really make as much sense as it would with a male protagonist. In a way, I feel kind of conflicted about the idea. While I'm open to it and think that Rockstar could do a good job with a female protagonist, in a way it doesn't really make much sense in a GTA game. It kind of is like you would have Tomb Raider with a male protagonist. Sure, it could work, but you would very quickly think, hey, isn't that Uncharted? And while I know that there's a lot of badass characters within the GTA franchise that are female, I don't know how it would personally work in a GTA game. And again, I'm open to it because I'm confident in Rockstar that they will be able to make a well-written female protagonist. But I'm just saying that in a world of GTA, I'm not quite sure how it would work out. But again, I'm open to the idea, and I would definitely not discredit any sort of chances of it being a good story if there would be a female protagonist. But I guess I'm also really used to the fact that we have male protagonists in Rockstar game, if not GTA games. And I don't know, as you can probably tell, I'm very conflicted about it because I'm trying to really figure out how I really feel about it, because I mean, I've never actually played a Rockstar game with a female protagonist that is actually the protagonist themselves. But at the same time, if you have someone like Sadie Adler from RDR2 or Mrs. Grimshaw, you can definitely see that Rockstar is very capable of writing some very good female characters. But at the same time, would someone like Sadie Adler or Miss Grimshaw work as a lead role? I don't know. That's the thing. I don't know if Sadie Adler would work as a protagonist. And sure, everyone was screaming about the Sadie Adler DLC whenever the game came out, but at the same time, would you see Sadie Adler work as a protagonist? I'm not sure about that one, because the dynamic between Sadie Adler and Arthur, because Arthur was the main role and whatever, it really worked. But at the same time, I could also see the roles being reversed in Arthur being, the quote-unquote side character. Because Sadie Adler's story, in a way, could also have worked as a main story, I suppose, because of the way that her story started and her story ended. It was basically going parallel with Arthur. But yes, I'm still very conflicted about it, but I guess I'm not the only one that's going to have that type of feeling, because it's probably pretty hard to imagine having a GTA game with a female protagonist. But whether there's a female protagonist or not, the most obvious question is going to be, what would I personally like to have? Would I like to have one main protagonist, or like a in GTA 5 where we had 3. I think that if you would stick to a single protagonist but still utilize the 3 protagonist aspect of the GTA 5 story in terms of gameplay, like I said, with having side characters that are playable, it would definitely make it a lot more interesting from a gameplay perspective. For example, the Merryweather heist, where you're able to just control Michael as your main protagonist, but still are able to use Franklin to provide overwatch while you're sniping. It would mean that the story itself could still be focused on the main protagonist, for example Michael in this case, and still have the side characters not have to be very in-depth, but still interesting enough to see their story develop as well as you continue on with the story. Because if anything, there's something extremely important in the GTA game, and that's the story and the gameplay. And if there's anything the GTA 5 did very well, is up the game with the amount of gameplay. Sure, at its core, it's still, go from A to B, shoot a bunch of things, and then, go back again. But I guess from a more action and feeling kind of thing, GTA 5 definitely did a lot better job than previous games in terms of gameplay. But those are just some of my opinions. I'd love to know what you think in the comments down below. Leave a like if you enjoyed, subscribe for more, and I'll see you all later.